Alright, today we're breaking down every Ark Raiders location and its variations, all ranked by how good they actually are for farming loot. This tier list isn't just about where the best items drop, but about the full experience of a run. How easy it is to gather loot, how risky it feels when you're trying to extract, and how much value you get for the time you spend inside the map. If you're tired of wasting runs on locations that look good on paper but don't pay off, this list is for you. One quick note before we jump in. Matriarch, the biggest ARC boss in the game, is intentionally left out. It's not really a general loot route, and unless you're fully geared and going in with the sole purpose of hunting that boss, it's usually not worth the risk. So in this video, we're focusing on realistic, repeatable locations you can run consistently, whether you're playing safe, playing solo, or just trying to maximize your loot per minute. Let's get into it. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking locations in Ark Raiders. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching.
My friends, only 0.1% of viewers subscribe. If you like this type of content, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you in advance for your support.
The locations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, the Blue Gate Default and the Blue Gate Electromagnetic Storm. Let's be honest for a second, if a map could actively test your patience, this would be it. The Blue Gate manages to do something impressive in the worst possible way. It turns running into a full-time job. The loot spots are spaced so far apart that you spend more time jogging through empty terrain than actually playing Ark Raiders. And the real kicker, after all that running, you are not even rewarded with unique or better loot. It is the same gear you can grab much faster and safer on other locations, which makes every visit here feel like a bad decision you realize 5 minutes too late. Now take all of that and add nature's personal vendetta against you, and you get the Blue Gate Electromagnetic Storm. Everything wrong with the base version is still here, but now lightning is trying to delete you while you cross the map. You are dodging electromagnetic strikes in a massive open wasteland, still running forever between loot areas, still looting nothing special. Instead of tension or excitement, it just feels like the game asking, how much inconvenience can you tolerate before you extract? Spoiler, not much. The locations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, the Blue Gate Harvester and the Blue Gate Night Raid. Here is where things get slightly better, but let's not get carried away. The Blue Gate Harvester earns its C tier spot not because the loot suddenly becomes amazing, but because the Harvester itself can actually be useful. It is still not worth going out of your way to loot the Harvester, but having it stomping around the map does one important thing. It pulls attention away from you. Raiders get distracted, gunfire starts somewhere else, and for a brief moment the map feels a little less suffocating than usual. Then we have the Blue Gate Night Raid, which sounds way more exciting than it actually is. Yes, there is extra loot compared to the normal version, and that is always nice in theory. The problem is that this map barely has any loot to begin with, so the bonus does not change much. You still spend a ridiculous amount of time just trying to find a loot area, and by the time you do, you could have already filled your backpack on a different location. It is not terrible, but it constantly reminds you that there are simply better options out there. The locations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dam Battlegrounds Electromagnetic Storm, Spaceport Harvester, Buried City, Night Raid, and the Blue Gate Husk Graveyard. This is one of those storm variants that sounds better on paper than it actually plays. Normally, storms help by masking sound and creating chaos, but at the Dam Battlegrounds, that advantage barely shows itself. With all the trees and visual clutter around, spotting downed ARC loot already feels like a scavenger hunt, and the storm just makes it worse rather than better. Movement is another big issue here. The terrain around the dam is already awkward, and once you add slippery paths, uneven ground, and lightning strikes, things get risky fast. Instead of the storm working for you, it feels like it is actively trying to sabotage your run. The danger from lightning ends up outweighing the sound cover benefit, which is why this map lands comfortably in B tier instead of climbing higher. On paper, the Spaceport Harvester looks fantastic. The Harvester loot here is genuinely good, and if loot quality were the only factor, this map would rank higher without question. The problem is everything surrounding that Harvester, especially the Queen guarding it, who turns a simple loot run into a potential disaster. That said, this map has a clear workaround. If you avoid the Queen's territory and stay away from that dangerous section of the map, Spaceport Harvester suddenly feels very similar to the standard Spaceport experience. Play it smart, respect the danger zones, and you still get a solid, efficient run. That balance of risk and reward is exactly why it fits neatly into B tier. This one sparks a lot of debate, and I get why. Buried City Night Raid absolutely offers higher loot value, and on the surface, that alone makes it tempting. But once you are actually inside the map, the problems become obvious very quickly. Tight corridors, close quarters, heavy ARC presence, and near total darkness create non-stop tension. The biggest issue is player interaction. You constantly bump into other raiders, and with nerves already high, almost every encounter turns into an instant fight. Yes, the loot is better, but the risk skyrockets alongside it. In my experience, the increased danger does not translate into a meaningful net gain compared to the default Buried City, which is why this stays in B tier. At this point, it should be no surprise that I am not a fan of the Blue Gate in general. As a location, it is still the weakest in RC Raiders right now, and no variant fully fixes its core problems. That said, the Husk Graveyard version actually tries to improve things instead of making them worse. The addition of the Husk Graveyard injects a much needed amount of loot into an otherwise empty wasteland. It does not magically turn the Blue Gate into a great map, but it finally gives you a reason to explore instead of just running through nothingness. Compared to the other Blue Gate variants, this one clearly stands above the rest, earning its place in B tier rather than being stuck at the bottom. The locations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Spaceport Hidden Bunker, Spaceport Night Raid, Dam Battlegrounds Default, Dam Battlegrounds Night Raid, Dam Battlegrounds Harvester, Stella Montis Default, and Buried City Default. This map is already solid on its own, but the Hidden Bunker pushes it into A tier territory. The optional Bunker Loot Room is a great risk-reward choice. You can dive in if you are feeling confident, or completely ignore it if your goal is a safer run. Either way, the map works in your favor, which is always a good sign. What really makes this version shine is how the bunker affects other players. Raiders are naturally drawn toward it, which means large parts of the spaceport are suddenly much quieter. If you skip the bunker, you often end up with more breathing room, more uncontested loot, and a smoother extraction overall. Spaceport and nighttime is a surprisingly good combo. The open areas that normally feel risky during the day suddenly become manageable once darkness sets in. You get far more opportunities to hide, reposition, and avoid unwanted fights with other raiders. The increased loot value is the other big win here. You can gear up extremely fast in a single run, which is perfect when you are hunting for specific items or trying to recover after a bad streak. Efficient, flexible, and consistently rewarding, this is Spaceport at its best. This might be the starter map, but do not let that fool you. Dam Battlegrounds remains one of the strongest long-term farming locations in the game. Loot areas are well spaced out, giving you clear routes and multiple options depending on where you drop in. There is also a great balance between cover and open space. Plenty of shelters let you hide from ARC units and hostile raiders, and the overall loot density is high enough that even a late drop still feels worthwhile. It is reliable, forgiving, and consistently productive. At first glance, this feels like a straight upgrade to the default version thanks to the better loot. In many ways, it plays very similarly, which is a good thing considering how strong the base map already is. The downside is player behavior. Raiders tend to be far more aggressive at night, and fights break out much more often. Because of that, while the loot is technically better, the overall experience is not always smoother. It is strong, but not a clear replacement for the standard map. The main reason this version ranks so high is the Harvester's spawn location. It appears in an area that is surprisingly easy to approach quietly, making stealthy plays very viable. With careful movement, you can get in and out without drawing too much attention. If you bring a photoelectric cloak, the whole process becomes even safer, allowing you to bypass most of the danger entirely. Outside of this specific advantage, the rest of the map plays exactly like the default Dam Battlegrounds, which is still a strong foundation to build on. If you can handle frequent player encounters, Stella Montis is an absolute goldmine. The map is packed with loot, and you spend very little time crossing empty open areas. That makes it perfect for quick, efficient runs when you just want to restock. The downside is obvious: lots of players, lots of tension. But if you are comfortable reading situations and picking your moments, the reward easily justifies the risk. Few maps let you fill your inventory this fast. Buried City shares some similarities with Stella Montis, but with a slightly calmer atmosphere. Loot is still fairly condensed, allowing you to collect valuable items without constantly bumping into other players. Another advantage is the general player behavior. Raiders here tend to be more relaxed and even friendly at times, which makes it easier to loot and extract safely. With a large hospital and multiple apartment buildings packed with high-value items, This map consistently delivers strong coin returns and earns its A-tier spot. The locations in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Stellar Montis Night Raid and Spaceport Electromagnetic Storm. This map is on a completely different level compared to everything else, and honestly, it is not even close. Stellar Montis Night Raid is easily the fastest way to get high-level gear in Arch Raiders right now. Almost everything takes place indoors, which means you are constantly standing next to loot containers instead of running between them. On top of that, there are far fewer wasps and hornets here than on most other maps, making looting smoother, safer, and way less annoying. Player interaction is definitely higher, but the dynamic is surprisingly positive. Because night raids here are so valuable, players are more willing to coexist rather than instantly fight. If you have Security Breach unlocked, this map becomes absurdly good. You can access 5 loot boxes in an extremely small area and comfortably clear all of them in about 5 to 10 minutes, walking away with insane value every single run. This is an S-tier pick for players focused on progression rather than pure combat. If you need materials to upgrade your workbenches but struggle with taking down major arc enemies, this map solves that problem for you. The Electromagnetic Storm fills the spaceport with ARC couriers, which can drop key upgrade items that are normally locked behind tougher ARC enemies. The storm also works in your favor in more subtle ways. All the environmental noise makes it much easier to loot loud buildings without broadcasting your position to the entire map. As a bonus, the storm reduces the number of airborne ARC enemies, making movement and looting significantly safer. Efficient, forgiving, and incredibly rewarding, this map fully earns its S-tier ranking. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.